Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. In this video, I'm going to show you how I created cabinets inside Eddie. If you're new to my channel, Eddie is my DIY travel trailer that I have been working on for the last 2.5 years. I was hoping to be done by now, but I'm not even close to that. But what you're tuning into for this video is cabinets. And I've never built cabinets in my life, much like I've never built a trailer in my life, but they turned out pretty good, just like the trailer has. So I'm going to show you how I built these and why they fit my particular needs. The biggest thing about a travel trailer for me is I don't like the interior of most of them. It doesn't feel like a home. So even though this is 12x7, it's got a wood stove in it. I wanted real cabinets that look like they belong in a cottage or a house. I want things that make me feel like I'm in my own cabin. So let's jump right into the video. I'll show you how I built them. Subscribe to the video and you'll see how this trailer evolved into what it is today and what it's going to be in the future and the adventures that I take it on. It's been to Utah, the Rocky Mountains in Colorado. It's been all over Ontario and Canada. It's got a lot of destinations waiting for it still. First thing I did was take a 4x8 sheet of 1/2-inch plywood and cut it to the dimensions of the cabinets. I'll be using 2x2 wood for framing the cabinets. This framing would not be seen once the cabinets were completed. I attached the 2x2 framing using pocket screws. Then glued and attached them to the 1/2-inch plywood sections. I'm going to put some glue here. I'm going to use brad nails to square this up onto here, then I'll flip it over. This may not be the lightest way of building cabinets for a DIY travel trailer. For me, it's the best way that I could come up with for what I needed. Once I did the rough framing, it was time to do the face of the cabinets. I just bought a very inexpensive Craig drill to do my pocket screws. So now I got to drill pilot holes in here. So this is the 1-inch screw that I'll be using, which will come out about this far. So what I want to do is have the drill come out of there. I'm going to put a little bit of green tape around the drill bit so I know how far to drill it. What I'm going to do is put it right at the start of there, so I know when I drill the pilot hole. Right there is where I stop. So I use 1x2 poplar and again more pocket screws to attach them together. So I glued the face frame to the cabinets and then attached it with brad nails and allowed it to dry. Filled in the holes of the brad nails and sanded it down. I made sure that all the angles were exactly 90 degrees and all the connections were really solid with no gaps. The ends of the cabinets won't be seen because they'll be sandwiched in between the walls. You can see the pocket screws that attach them. I'll be painting the cabinet so you won't see any of these marks. I have more sanding to do here. This is the bottom of the cabinet and I'll be sanding this down. I've left a 3/4 inch overlap for cosmetic reasons. So the cabinets are flipped upside down now. This is the face frame. And so this is a side cabinet. This here's a side cabinet. And I'll be building the face frame for the back cabinet, and that's a thinner one. So using pocket holes, I'm be building the face frame, and again that just goes in to cover up the edge of the plywood there. So that's going to go on top of there, just like the other ones. Once I got the last face frame on, it was time to paint the cabinets. I gave them a couple of coats of primer and then finished them off with the forest green color. I just used a Wagner power sprayer to paint them, and I gave them 3 coats of paint. So before putting up the cabinets, I made sure I tucked in lots of insulation. You can't see it there, but I went with the 5-inch insulation so that there's no gaps, because the gap between here and here is bigger than the 3-inch standard insulation, so I went with the 5-inch, so it's really crammed in there to make sure we have no air gaps between there. I filled all of the small gaps with spray foam. I'm going to cut all that back, and my goal for the ceiling is to have absolutely no air gaps between the plywood roof and the interior roof. Strappings that I'm putting on the 2x4s to bring down the cabinets a little bit, and that'll make sense when I put the interior ceiling on, but I need the cabinets to come down from the 2x4 just a bit. So ready to put up the cabinet on this side. First I gotta put the insulation, and then I'll be able to screw it up to the ceiling. I had my son Griffin and my future son-in-law Owen help me out with installing the cabinets. Push the wall. It's gonna be hard to hear.
It's okay.
Okay, boys. Okay, guys. Thank you. The middle cabinet fit a little too good and needed some coaxing to get into place. So we're just going to put this piece here, and I'm going to tack it just with some screws to keep it in place, because it's going to be sandwiched. I won't be able to access it because another panel will be covering up that. So it's going to throw some screws in there. So these 1/4-inch panels that were painted the forest green as well covered up the rough plywood and allowed you to see the back wall. I think it was a nice contrast. So now that I've got the cabinet frames installed in Eddie, it's time to work on the cabinet doors. So I've decided to go with a shaker style door. I'm going to be using 1x3 wood for the rails and the stiles. So the wood trim that goes this way is the rails, the stiles are this way. So far it looks like I made a good decision to buy this Craig jig, which allows me to drill these holes for the European hinges. I did a test one here on this piece of wood, this scrap wood that I had, and it worked perfectly. And the main reason why I did this is I wanted to see what the overlap was going to be for the door. So the overlap at the top, when I install this on the cabinets, looks like the door is going to overlap the frame by about 1/2 inch on top. So now I need to make sure it overlaps 1/2 inch at the bottom. So I need that measurement to determine what the stiles are going to be. So my stiles on all the cabinets are going to be 11.5 inches. So right now I got to cut 12 stiles, 11.5 inches long, and then I will determine the width of the rails, which will all be different on the cabinets inside. So that's how we got to where we are now. Do not try this at home, but I'm having a problem with my particular table saw, which is a cheap old table saw. I'm sure people that do this for a living do not use this one, but as I run this through here, I'm worried that the style is going to dip into the blade, because once it gets over here, it's going to fall into this hole. There's no way I can kind of control it safely anyways. So speaking of safety, what I thought is I have this scrap piece of wood. I'm going to run this through here. Hopefully the blade will cut a nice little slot through here, and I'll be able to clamp that and use this as a guide. We'll see how that works out. Just by running the rails and stiles over the table saw at the proper setting, you can create a channel in there that the 1/4-inch plywood of the wood door panels will fit into. It's a very time-consuming process, but it has to get done. So I lowered my table saw blade down to a 1/4 inch, measured off roughly what the distance would be, and nibbled off the wood gradually until I got to the pencil mark. And those are the grooves that will fit into the channels of the rails and complete the doors. I didn't film a lot of the door construction. But basically these all fit together with the panel of the door, which is 1/4 inch plywood in between them. I used my DIY circular saw guide for cutting the panels of the doors. This allowed me to cut long cuts and make sure that they were 90 degrees. That's what the doors look like when I was gluing them. So once the glue was dry, I sanded them thoroughly, filled in any cracks where the panels met the actual stiles and rails. Once that was done, I sanded again and then gave them a coat of primer. I attached small little cup hooks to the top part of the doors that would not be seen because these are going to be above my head and you won't see the holes where the little cup holders are. It makes painting them and carrying them around and drying them easier. So the doors got 3 coats of the same forest green paint. I used Benjamin Moore Advance. And once the last coat of green paint on, I hung them up to dry just like I did with the primer. While I was waiting for the doors to dry, I finished up the ceiling in Eddie using 1/4 inch plywood that was primed and painted white. I I fitted it above the cabinets and then finished off the max air fan fitting. When the doors are dry, I removed the cup holders, and then it was time to drill out the European hinges and the latches for the doors. This was my first time using the European hinges, and the Craig drill turned out to be very worthwhile having. I used a straight edge to make sure that they were lined up properly, drilled pilot holes before I put the screws in. Made a point to use a screwdriver so I did not strip the threads in the wood. Drilled a hole right through the panel and inserted the push button release for the handles that I had. I got these on Amazon. Put the link in the description if you're interested in them. I like the simplicity of these latches. Push button and they lock into place. Didn't film a lot of actually installing the doors. It's a little tricky to do this by myself. Marked the locations of where the hinges go, drilled pilot holes, screwed them in, and luckily they all lined up. This is the completed project. I've since installed hinges that keep the door up when you open it, and I've been very happy with how things turned. So there you go. That's how I made these cabinets. I'm pretty happy with them. They really have been very functional, and it's worked out really well. I didn't film everything. I tried to do it the best I could. It's been months in the planning of doing these, and it's taken a long time. So in future videos, I'll be doing the pantry here. That's going to have slide out cupboards. So the kitchen needs to be done. There's going to be upper cabinets. There's going to be a slide out. The countertop needs to be redone, and then eventually the shower is going to get done. So I have a lot of work to do on this. Hope you liked it, and thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Cheers.